It's a cornerback frenzy in Allen Park in a Saturday edition of Locked On Lions.
You are Locked On Lions, your daily Detroit Lions podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Matt Derry with you on a special Saturday edition of Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today is Saturday, March 22nd into Sunday, March 23rd. Hope everybody's having a great week. We did not have a show yesterday. Took kind of a day off yesterday. Spent some time with my wife. It was her birthday, a lot going on. But we're doing a Saturday show. We got to give you 5 shows a week, and that's what we do right here on Locked On Lions. Thanks for making us your first listen. Thanks for checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. How about some of our everydayers who are out there that watch and listen to the podcast daily? Ran into a couple of everydayers last night. A lot of fun at a wine, whiskey, and bourbon event up in Grosse Pointe at the War Memorial. And I ran into Carl Vaughn, big listener. Thank you, Carl. It was great to meet you. Harry Galak came up and said hello. And my guy, Mr. Cornbread himself, goes way back with me to our radio days. Jason Wallington was there. Oh my gosh, great to see Jay Wall, and got to take a picture with him and say hi. So thanks for everydayers. Thanks to everybody who checks us out, and some of our regulars. Got to see them last night, which was awesome. Locked On Lions today brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Coming up on the show today, lots of stuff we missed over the last 48 hours, including not 1, not 2, but 3 cornerback signings for the Lions. Bleacher Report put out a list of 5 to 7 trades they could see happening this offseason. One of them involves the Lions. I'm saying no to it, but still, we'll talk about that coming up momentarily. It's very expensive to go to Ford Field, so much so that there was a poll put out and a study done by our friends at sportscasting.com. And we'll tell you where the Lions rank in that study. We also have a call of the day today. If you want to be our call of the day, just go to our SpeakPipe voicemail system at www.speakpipe.com/Dairy podcast page. All right. So we know this about the Lions and their cornerback room. We have said goodbye to Carlton Davis, and we have said goodbye, thank God, to Kindle Vildor. Yes, the Kindle Vildor era is over, as he is signed with the Buccaneers on a 1-year deal. Lions have brought in DJ Reed. We've talked a lot about that. Really like that signing, getting them for about $16 million a year and less money than what the Lions would have paid Carlton Davis, who got $20 million a year from the New England Patriots. But with, Terrion Arnold is back, obviously, fresh off a rookie year that I thought he was pretty good. Amik Robertson entering the last year of his deal. Khalil Dorsey off a very big injury. Ennis Rakestraw always seems to be hurt, but they're hopeful that the second-year corner going into this year will be better and will be healthy. But a lot of questions certainly about that secondary. Now that Vildor's gone and everything else, the Lions need to shore up and get as many corners in here as possible. Well, first things first, the Lions signed the other day Rock Ya-Sin, the former Colts second-round pick, to a 1-year deal. They also signed Avonte Maddox from Detroit King High School, who had spent his entire 7-year career with the Eagles, and they've brought back Khalil Dorsey. A lot of people are going to say, all right, this is good. Like, Lions are adding a lot of depth at corner and as many cornerbacks as possible. 2 things, and both things can be true. Number one, Brad Holmes is doing what Brad Holmes does, which is sign players to 1-year contracts. All right. It's a 1-year contract palooza. It's a bakery full of 1-year contracts lately for Brad Holmes. That's what he's doing, and that's what he does. A lot of prove it 1-year deals, whether it's Marcus Davenport at the start of free agency or Khalil Dorsey yesterday. They're bringing these types of players in. That's number one. But number two, the 2 guys they signed from other teams aren't good football players. I don't know how else to put it. At least they haven't been good lately. Rock Ya-Sin was a second-round pick of the Colts in 2019 and was a gigantic bust in Indianapolis. He was not good. And especially in man coverage, which is what the Lions do a lot of. He's not had a good career. This was a guy coming out of college that many people loved. I remember listening to draft people say, oh, Rock Ya-Sin, underrated pick, love the pick. I had him as a first round grade. He spent 3 years in Indianapolis and struggled. So much so that the Colts let him walk. He then went to Las Vegas, 1 year out. Baltimore, 1 year out. San Francisco, 1 year out. All right. He just has not been good. He has not been effective, and teams have not held on to him. Now, you bring him to Detroit. We've seen this before where the Lions resurrect careers. Remember, Alex Anzalone was a guy that when they signed him, including people like me, said, Alex Anzalone, who's that? All right. But Rock Ya-Sin has struggled in his 6 years in the NFL. He's now going to be playing for his, fifth team in 7 years. Rock Ya-Sin's PFF grade this past season was a 44.2, which was 2 points lower than Kindle Vildor. It's a 1 year flyer. He might not make the team. But if you're reading some of these websites or people close to, I like this could be a reserve. He's not been good. I'm just being honest. He hasn't been good. Avonte Maddox is a cool story because a lot of you have heard of Avonte Maddox. He was with the Eagles. He's been on their Super Bowl teams. He's been there 7 years. But a declining player at 29 who last year started the year as the starting nickel back for the Eagles and then got benched. He got torched in the first game, then got benched. And, Maddox is a guy, more of a slot corner. Again, Detroit native, has a Lions tattoo already, which he's had, which is kind of cool. It's a cool story. Played some safety in the Super Bowl and had a pass breakup off of Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. So there's something there, but he's declined. He's been benched, and he's 29, but he's going to get a chance to come home, play for his hometown team. This past year, he graded out as a 61.9 from PFF. Now, again, PFF grades are what PFF does, and not every team thinks that the grades are accurate. There's players that argue their PFF scores, but if you I'll just give you an example for those of you that don't know PFF. I'm telling you that Rock Ya-Sin's grade was 44.2. That's basically a failing grade. If you're in the 40s, Kindle Vildor 46.7. Khalil Dorsey was 47.7 this year before his injury in the playoff game. Just to tell you, who are the best corners in the league? Pat Surtain from the Dolphins. His grade is 83.8, double what these guys are. Trent McDuffie from the Chiefs, one of the best corners in the game. His grade's an 82. Derek Stingley just got $30 million a year from the Houston Texans. He's a beast out on the island there. His grade is 80. All right, just to give you an example. So while the Lions are adding depth with Maddox, with Ya-Sin, bringing Dorsey back, I still think this team has got to draft a corner at some point next month. Now, I'm not saying draft one first. I still think edge rusher is a big deal. Maybe offensive line, but bringing in another younger corner would not be a bad idea, because I don't know if Rock Ya-Sin, Avonte Maddox are both going to make the team. And they're both, while I sit here and make fun of Kindle Vildor's performance, these guys are Vildor-esque. I'm just throwing it out there. So just because we got some new bodies in, you're like, yeah, all right, Brad. And Brad Holmes, and maybe he and his personnel department see something that I don't see or other people sees. But the Eagles fans were like, oh, Avonte Maddox is gone. Finally, he was good for 7 years there, 4th round pick. But no, declining player. We'll see if a homecoming to come home to Detroit is something that works and that he can be a nice stabilizing veteran. The one thing you always hear about Avonte, great dude, great in the locker room, and a guy that his teammates love. So we'll see, but that's where we're at here in terms of what the framework of these deals look like and what people think of these players. These are not massive upgrades by any stretch of the imagination. I can tell you that right here, right now. All right, coming up here on Locked On Lions, Bleacher Report put out a possible Lions-Eagles trade. We will get into that coming up next, right here on this Saturday, special Saturday edition of Locked On Lions. And Locked On Lions today brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. And with Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, design, and more. Experts ready to help you take your business to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or maybe you need a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. All right. If you're looking for the right talent, if you need help with, let's say, a marketing campaign, Upwork can connect you with a freelance expert who delivered incredible results already. Go to their website, visit upwork.com right now, and post your job for free. That's upwork.com, upwork.com, to connect with top talent and grow your business today. And as we told you earlier, Locked On Lions today also proudly brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Have you ever checked into your bank account and wonder, where's all my money gone? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over all of your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. You just stop managing your money and start building wealth. All right. Easy collaboration. Listen, managing money with your partner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all of the stress. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. All right, back on a Saturday edition of a Locked On Lions right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Matt Derry with you. Hope everybody had a great week. Getting ready for another week ahead. We'll talk a little bit about March Madness coming up in our next stop set, but hope all of you are doing well. As the Lions are getting ready for the draft, we're going to start hearing some names that are coming into Allen Park to make visits with the team, etc. And our call of the day today talks a little about the draft. We'll get into that momentarily. All right, there was an article that came out in Bleacher Report this week. Mo Moten wrote the article about proposed trades around the NFL, deals that this author could see happening. And one of the deals that was brought up by Moten is that the Lions and Eagles would make a trade. And again, everybody's talking about the Lions trading for edge rushers, but that Detroit would send a 4th-round pick this year and a 7th-round pick this year to the Eagles for edge rusher Bryce Huff. If you recall last year, Huff was a big free agent signing by Howie Roseman and the Eagles. He got 3 years, $51 million. And after coming over from the Jets, where he had a 10-sack season in 2023. This year, Huff did not play well, and it finished with just 2.5 sacks and also missed 5 games due to an injury. Now, the Eagles already lost Josh Sweat, who went to the Cardinals in free agency. So maybe they want to keep a guy like Bryce Huff. But again, 2 more years left on his contract, making about $16 million a year. But the good news is, and I looked this up, he has no guaranteed money on the deal after this season. So if you trade him for this year, you're taking a pretty decent sized cap hit, but you can get out from underneath the deal after this year if he continues to not play well. He's only 26. Eagles would be asking for a 4th-round pick and a 7th-round pick. Again, did not have a great season this past year. He's making a lot of money. Would I take Bryce Huff, the player? I would. 4th and 7th-round pick are not horrible. This is a realistic trade brought up by Mo Moten from Bleacher Report. My only issue, again, is the money. And I don't see a scenario where Brad Holmes is going to inherit a contract like this. Now, what if the Eagles made him a June 1st cap casualty cut or something like that and got out from under the contract? I don't know if they're going to do that. But are the Eagles that desperate to dump him and his salary? Are there other players the Eagles want to utilize and get using Huff's money? Or do the Eagles feel like, you know what, he was not healthy enough last year, missed some games. We're going to get the Bryce Huff in year 2 that we thought we were getting in year 1 that we saw 2 years ago from the Jets. That's possible. But I think I would take the player, but I don't know if I would take the contract. It's just a lot of money that you're inheriting that, again, Brad Holmes and company don't really do. I mean, they dumped Zadarius Smith, their own guy, to save $6.5 million. Would they be taking on a deal like Bryce Huff's? I'm not so sure. Again, it's not just about sacks. Yes, he only had 2.5 this past year. Again, he missed 5 games. Pretty good football player, but not a guy that made a big impact with the Eagles this past year. And they won the Super Bowl. You know, we talked a lot about the Super Bowl and how well Josh Sweat played in that game with 2.5 sacks. Well, Bryce Huff had 2.5 sacks for the entire season. But again, maybe he just wasn't healthy last year. We'll have to wait and see on that. All right. Interesting piece that came out this week that I want to get into that I read at sportscasting.com. They did a piece about the most affordable and most expensive NFL stadiums from this past season. And in terms of a game day experience. And basically their methodology was they determined the most affordable and most expensive NFL stadiums. They collected data off of SeatGeek based on prices of 1 hot dog, 1 beer, but the big one is the 1 ticket. All right. The food data came from a website called cheapism.com, and the prices for the tickets were from SeatGeek. We all know how expensive Lions tickets were this past year. All right. We have heard the reports. We have heard from fans. I went on all the websites, including Gametime, who of course is a sponsor of us here on Lockdown. And we love the Gametime app. Get there now. And tickets were ridiculous. Like they were crazy. Giant supply or small supply, giant demand, as we know for Lions tickets. Well, from the data put out from sportscasting.com, your Detroit Lions and Ford Field were ranked as the most expensive game day experience using their methodology. All right. So if you went to a game, got 1 ticket, 1 beer, and 1 hot dog, the average price was $265.98. The ticket was $254, again off SeatGeek. Beer was $5.49, hot dog $6.49. The 5 most expensive spots: Detroit, Las Vegas Raiders, Philadelphia Eagles, San Francisco 49ers, Chicago Bears. The Lions were at $265 for the ticket, beer, and hot dog. Raiders were at $256. Eagles were at $242.49. 49ers, $224.49. Bears, $195. The cheapest ticket, beer, and hot dog combo, the New Orleans Saints down at the Caesars Superdome, $61.99. You could get a ticket for $12. $12 on SeatGeek last year for New Orleans. And $43. Sorry, not 12. My bad. $43 was the average ticket price on the site for Saints games. Also down at the bottom were Jaguars, Cardinals, Panthers, and Buccaneers. But yes, congratulations to Ford Field from sportscasting.com, the most expensive game day experience. And by the way, it ain't getting any cheaper. The Lions are a hot team. They're a fun team. They're a good team. And as we saw this past last couple of weeks, the Lions are also revoking season tickets from people that are going back on the secondary market to sell them. I don't like it. I think the Lions are in cahoots a lot of times with some of these brokers, but who would have thunk it years ago that the most expensive ticket, hot dog, beer combo and game day experience was here in Detroit? But again, some of it is a testament to you guys, the fans. You love this team. You showed up no matter how bad they were, how outdated the Silverdome was back in the day, whatever. Fans have a high demand to go see their team in person. All right. No one down in New Orleans right now, and that's a bad product. You see Jacksonville, you see Arizona. You know, Lions fans in Arizona this past year took that stadium over, right? It's tough. It's a tough ticket right now to get at Ford Field, but that's a lot of money for the 1 ticket, a beer, and a hot dog. over $265. All right, coming up next, let's do this. We've got to get into our call of the day. We're going to hear from one of our everydayers on our call of the day today and talk a little draft. We'll do that coming up next right here. It's a special Saturday edition of Locked On Lions.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, everybody, as you know, we like to hear from our fans and our listeners and our viewers here on Locked On Lions, and you can do that by going to speakpipe.com/Derry, D-E-R-Y podcast page. And yes, you can be our call of the day. Today's call of the day comes in from Adam, who checks in, wants to talk a little draft. Let's take a listen.
Hey, Matt, when we talk about the draft, a lot of the focus is on edge. I get it. It's sexy. Everyone wants to find, the next Hutch to line up on the other side. But I think we do have a need. We like to say we don't have a need, but our offensive line is worse today than it was a year ago. When we've been talking about mocks and things like that, it's really been focused on edge. I'm kind of curious, who excites you that we could pick in the first round for a guard? So a difference maker, someone who could be an upgrade better than kind of Mahogany, or at least compete with Mahogany, Glasgow, and potentially even replace Zeitler, be that good. Is there anyone out there like that?
All right, Adam, thank you for checking in with us here. Call of the day at speakpipe.com/Derry podcast page. Well, what's interesting about what Adam is saying and asking is, would Brad Holmes, we had Brett Whitefield on 2 days ago, and go back and check out Thursday's show. Brett was great from fantasypoints.com. Brett talked about some candidates for the Lions to draft, to move up and draft, because if they wanted to get a guard, first of all, let's talk about the guard situation right now. As we've documented on this show, Graham Glasgow had a struggle bus second half for the Leos at left guard. And as Brett pointed out the other day, maybe now it's time, with Kevin Zeitler departing for Tennessee, which sucks because I love Zeitler, that you move Glasgow back to right guard where he had success 2 years ago. You put Christian Mahogany at left guard, who had some success there this year when he played for Glasgow when he was hurt, especially in that Bears game in Chicago. Touchdown Bears. And you put Mahogany at left guard and Glasgow at right guard and hope that Graham has the kind of success he had 2 years ago. And Glasgow is a Lions guy. They love him in the room, re-signed to a long-term deal last season. That could be a scenario. But if there's somebody Brad Holmes really likes, what school, right? What college does Brad Holmes love trading up to get players from? Well, it's Alabama. Trade up to get Jamison Williams from Alabama. Trade it up to get Brian Branch, Alabama. Trade it up to get Terrion Arnold, Alabama. Who's the best guard in this class? He's from Alabama. And that would be the big guy, Tyler Booker. 6'5", 325 pounds, and he's got all the tools. Now, will Tyler Booker be there for the Lions at 28? No chance. If you want Tyler Booker, Adam, call the day, Adam, you're going to have to trade up to get him. Tate Ratledge is interesting. This was the guy that had the mullet at the combine, and everybody said, oh, he looks like a Dan Campbell type. Ratledge is 6'6", 320 out of Georgia, and I love this kid. He is just a nasty, nasty player. Nasty being good, nasty. Very, very good, powerful guy. He could be a guy that the Lions could draft at 28. Dylan Fairchild is another guard from Georgia that's pretty good. The kid Jones from Ohio State played tackle last year, but really came up as a guard. I think that could be a possibility at 28. So there's a lot of options there. And this is a very, very good draft for interior offensive linemen and also interior and edge rusher defensive linemen. So yes, those are some names just to keep in mind. if the Lions at 28 do want to make a move. But again, they're not going to get Booker. They're not going to get Booker, and they probably might not even get Ratledge at 28. Miles Frazier's a possibility from LSU. He's a pretty good player. But there's good players all over the place in terms of guards that, rate well for the draft, for this draft. What's interesting about what Brad Holmes does is if he stays at 28, and again, he's moved up a lot. Last year, he moved up a ton in the middle of the late rounds to get Manu, to get Vaki. It's got to be a guy that fits this organization. Ratledge fits. All right. Definitely fits. But what would be, Glasgow, they love. Glasgow hasn't even been cut. I thought he could have been a cut candidate. He hasn't been. So maybe they feel like, all right, we'll let Zeitler walk. We'll move Graham back to the right side. And we got Mahogany ready, a 6th-round pick from last year, who showed when he got out there, he really performed well. And maybe that's what they're thinking. But offensive lineman or a guard in the 2nd or 3rd round. Remember, Giovanni Manu was a guy they like that they took last year and moved up to get. Is he a tackle? Could he play guard? That's another option, at least in there. But the Lions do not, and Adam's right, the Lions need some more depth. And I think they'll draft an offensive lineman at some point coming up next month. I'm just not sure if it's going to be at 28. By the way, I said Jones. It's Jackson. That's the Ohio State offensive lineman. All right, that'll do it for us. Thank you for being with us on a special Saturday edition of a Locked On Lions. We apologize for not being around yesterday, but just had a day off that I had to do, had needed. So we moved the show to today. But we'll be back on Monday with another edition of Mock Draft Monday. Thanks for checking us out wherever you get your podcasts. Everybody have a great rest of the weekend. Watch out for Colorado State.